So I'm happy I said he'll answer in two
well.
weeks, but let him not write me long paragraphs. Just give us the procedure that was used to hive off the park. That's simple.
Is Senator okay?
No, just a minute. Yes. We won't get the question from the Senator.
Mr. Speaker, I have committed myself.
Yeah, you did that.
And
so no
I know Senator Sifuna could have been around when Vision 2030 was being, maybe he was in school. I was around here in the political space. So I have probably a better understanding of Vision 2030.
Honorable CS, you know, you give your commitment and that's the end of that commitment. You know, you have been to this house, to the house, and also you are a good politician. You have been a party chairman. I know you know how to handle questions from politicians and from other leaders. But once you give your commitment, don't go to the political space. Just leave it at that. Senator Okech, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I've read the response from the CS. And Mr. Speaker, just like Senator Sifuna, maybe I was more involved when Vision 2030 was being conceived. Because, Mr. Speaker, it
seems to be
Mr. Speaker, this is very important.
Mr. Speaker, can you kindly ask your supplementary
Mr. Speaker,
question?
I could have landed the question. But, Mr. Speaker, this is what I'm trying to say, that the Vision 2030, the way it was crafted, was hugely dependent on all the flagship projects pegged on private partnership, private-public partnership. And, Mr. Speaker, in the rest proper frameworks and robust engagement with the private sector. So my question is, CS, from the response I've read here, is Vision 2030 still aligned to be able to cultivate the flagship projects that were conceived based on PPP? Because the PPP has struggled to make sure that those projects are aligned. Where is the ministry at with the frameworks that are robust to engage the private sector in the investment of Vision 2030? Because, for instance, the affordable housing project is based on government investment, and all the other projects are based on government intervention. So my question is, have you reviewed and strengthened the private sector framework with the government?
Honorable CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, when Senator Eddy said he was deeply involved in this conceptualization of Vision 2030, I'm tempted to refresh my knowledge of his age. But now, let me address his question. In terms of engaging or involving the private participation in Vision 2030, a number of initiatives have been carried out. One of them is the PPP. One of them is the operationalization of the PPP model. And a number of projects are being initiated through that model. And you know, we have the expressway here, we have the Rironi Mau Summit. But I will tell you, the reason why we have come up with the National Infrastructure Fund is purely to support the Vision 2030. Because we have seen the government of Vision 2030 and even the railway system. So for all this to be actualized, we realized that there was need for serious intervention in terms of infrastructure projects, public infrastructure projects, hence the enactment of National Infrastructure Fund. And I'm sure you have looked at that fund, I mean the enabling legislation for that fund. So I want to just leave it there, that Senator Eddy, you are speaking to someone who has also been interacted, who has interacted a lot with Vision 2030. But the policies that the government come up with would help support, because Vision 2030 was not just about infrastructure. There were a lot of other social pillars to it, and that has also to be spoken to. The health pillar, the housing pillar, much as it has some infrastructure element, but the housing pillar was actually a social to be proud of. So I would go on, and then you will start saying this is verbosity. But I will tell you, Senator Eddie, there is nothing verbose about this. It is about facts. It's about and I've just presented those facts to you. But you see, you cannot choose for the listener how to interpret your facts. It's informed by a number of things, maybe personal biases, political interests, and again, this is a political house. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
We now go to the next question. Senator Amina Kibona, 051. Very fast, and then we come to Professor Gender questions.
My question on number 051, Mr. Speaker. Bwana Waziri, does the National Treasury maintain a tracking system on the resolution of concerns by the Auditor General regarding the application of public funds by the national government? And if so, could the Cabinet Secretary provide an update on the resolution status of reported audit concerns? B, what enforcement framework exists to ensure that audit concerns are resolved promptly by the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs? C, could the Cabinet Secretary indicate whether recurrent, qualified, and adverse audit findings lead to mandatory corrective action plans, budgetary consequences, and decisive action against responsible officers, among other sanctions? And D, what reforms is the ministry considering, including lessons from jurisdictions with stronger public finance follow-through systems, to ensure that audit work translates into timely corrective action? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, proceed and give your response.
Thank you. This one is not too long. So, Mr. Speaker, I will respond as follows. We know that Article 2262 of the Constitution states as follows, that the accounting officer of the national public entity is accountable to the National Assembly for its financial management. And the accounting officer of a county public entity is accountable to the County Assembly for its financial management. Now, under Section 204, 1G of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, it says that the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Economic Planning may apply sanctions to a national government entity that fails to address the issues that are raised by the Auditor General to the satisfaction of the Auditor General. So the National Treasury has a parliamentary liaison officer or office with a structured mechanism to track and report back to Parliament the implementation status of resolutions adopted by the National Assembly. These are compiled in a document that we call Treasury Memorandum. This Treasury Memoranda document the implementation status of the National Assembly resolutions on audit issues are submitted for all voted national government entities and funds. In practice, the tracking system for the resolution of concern raised by the Auditor General is as follows. After the National Assembly resolutions on national government audit reports are received, the National Treasury transmits the same to all accounting officers, instructing them to provide implementation status within a certain time frame. Then the National Treasury reviews and consolidates this information and tracks progress on the implementation. The national government entities must regularly report on the status of unresolved issues, including recovery of funds, disciplinary actions, or any system improvements required. Finally, the National Treasury then transmits the implementation status through the Treasury Memorandum to the Clerk of the National Assembly. There are challenges to this process, however. One, accounting officers are accountable to the National Assembly and not the National Treasury as per Article 226 of the Constitution. Two, Section 74(2) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 states that if a Cabinet Secretary reasonably believes that an accounting officer is engaging in or has engaged in improper conduct, then the Cabinet Secretary shall take such measures as may be provided in regulations or refer the matter to the relevant office or body in terms of the statutory and other conditions of employment. So, Mr. Speaker, there are reforms that we have instituted to specify the measures in the regulations. Under Section 95 of the PFM Act, the Cabinet Secretary, if the Cabinet Secretary finds a national government entity to be in serious or persistent material breach of its obligations or financial commitments, then Cabinet Secretary shall determine the reasons for the breach and assess the national government entity's financial state. That section needs to be amended to conform to what may impose on accounting officer for failure to address issues raised by the Auditor General. Then these sanctions include the stoppage of funds, which the Cabinet Secretary may impose. And, of course, I want to add that the Cabinet Secretary may withdraw the role or designation as accounting officer. Now, what enforcement framework exists to ensure that audit concerns are resolved promptly by the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies? The legal enforcement framework is set out in Article 2262 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, which holds all accounting officers accountable to the National Assembly. Section 204 of the Public Finance Management Act provides sanctions that the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury may impose on individual officers or public entities subject to the fulfillment of a legislation criteria. Now, I'm also asked to indicate whether recurrent qualified and adverse audit findings lead to mandatory corrective action plans, solution of audit issues included in the financial reporting templates as approved by the Public Sector Accounting Standards is a section on the disclosure of outstanding audit issues and their resolution. We confirm that the National Treasury has used the sanctions provided for in Article 225(3) of the Constitution and Section 204 of the Public Finance Management Act sparingly in favor of service delivery. We have applied it sparingly. We have, however, supported institutions with prosecutorial powers whenever breaches of the public finance management law have occurred. So what reforms is the ministry considering, including lessons from